MEP David Coburn could leave Brussels with more than £1 million of taxpayers' cash. The former Ukipper was left humiliated last week when Nigel Farage refused to let him stand again in EU elections for his new Brexit party. It means Coburn, who has been caught up in a string of racism and ism scandals, will now almost certainly be forced to step down from the European Parliament in May. But the Sunday Mail can reveal the 60-year-old, who used one of his last debates to speak out in favor of tax avoidance, will leave a rich man thanks to his generous taxpayer-funded salary and expenses. As an MEP for the last 5 years, he has been paid a salary of about £90,000 a year, meaning he will have earned £450,000 over the term of the Parliament. But while Scotland's other MEPs publish voluntary audited accounts showing the amounts they have spent on the EU's numerous expenses and allowances, none can be found on Coburn's website. Read more. He is entitled to claim £276 as a daily allowance just for turning up at sessions in Brussels, Luxembourg, and Strasbourg. If Coburn had signed in on every working day, he could have added an extra £63,500 to his bank account last year and £317,500 over 5 years. He is also entitled to an office allowance budget of £3,890 a month. Despite not listing any constituency office on his website, Coburn will have been able to claim the maximum amount without having to submit a receipt. This could have added a further £46,700 to his yearly claim and £233,500 over 5 years. Coburn will also have been able to claim various other travel and staffing costs which could bring the total to a nigh-watering £1,001,000 over 5 years. Nigel Farage's decision means David Coburn will now almost certainly be forced to step down. Getty Images. On top of all that, Coburn will be entitled to a transitional allowance of £45,300 when he leaves the Parliament. The politician, who was privately educated in Glasgow, is understood to split his time between a chateau in France, a cottage in Fife and a flat in London. He slavishly followed Farage out of Ukippe and into his former leader's new Brexit party earlier this year, but Farage last week announced Louis Steadman Bryce would be at the top of his list of candidates in Scotland, with no mention of Coburn. Despite having raked in a fortune from taxpayers, Coburn used one of his last appearances at a parliamentary session in Strasbourg to stick up for tax-dodging firms. Coburn said, "Tax avoidance, the limiting of tax exposure for companies and individuals, is perfectly legitimate. No one wants to pay more taxes than required." Read more. The purpose of business is to benefit the people who have worked and invested in companies, not to provide a pool of money for the excessive EU salaries and madcap social job creation schemes which do not work. In 2015, Coburn faced calls to resign over a series of offensive remarks about SNP Justice Secretary Humza Yousaf, who the MEP repeatedly referred to as Abu Hamza, the hook-handed Islamic fundamentalist hate preacher. Coburn has also been accused of ism by referring to First Minister Nicola Sturgeon as helmet hairdo. A source said, Coburn is always turning up for parliamentary sessions. He's there every day. The UK will almost certainly have to take part in EU elections on May 23 after failing to leave the EU as planned at the end of March. The Brexit Party and Coburn did not respond to requests for comment. Read more top news stories today. Let's block ads. Why?